News on a day, the National Assembly Agriculture Committee Chair Adan Haji Yusuf revealed names of people, organizations and bodies that will be called to shed light on matters concerning the contraband sugar that have been impounded across the country. In studio, I still have Honorable Jennifer Shamala, Honorable Matiang'i, as well as Honorable Benjamin Washiali. Let me start with Honorable Shamala now, who is still at our city centre studios. Now, Honorable Shamala, can you perhaps tell us if you do expect heads to roll in these state agencies, like, the KEBS, KRA, police officers? I mean, so many Kenyans are asking, how did this kind of contraband sugar, they are very, big in amount, about 14,800 metric tons. The question is, how did this kind of sugar even manage to get it across our borders?
Yeah, thank you, Yusuf. And if you give me some time, I won't take too long. I want to put certain things into perspective. Yesterday, I brought up 3 issues in Parliament. The first issue was that let us not differentiate industrial sugar from domestic sugar, because none of them have poison in them. Industrial sugar is used for confectionaries, like you rightfully said, and pharmaceuticals. The second thing is to ask yourself the question, what does mercury do when it's absorbed by a human being? The 2 things that I immediately come to mind is it inhibits the body to make red blood cells. The second thing is it causes infertility in a human being. The third thing to ask yourself is that mercury is used as a primer in bullets and in detonation devices. So if there is no way mercury leaked into the sugar, Now, these are the very pertinent questions we need to ask, and that's why I said initially, let's separate the 2. The sugar industry and how it came down, and the contraband and how mercury got into that sugar.
Yes, Honorable Shamal, I think your point is clear there.
And they've got to be separated. We need to have an investigation, and definitely once you get to the bottom of it, heads will have to roll.
Of course, this is a matter that's still under investigation. Honorable Washiali, please come in here, because what is the bigger issue here? Is it sugar laced with mercury, or the sheer amount of illegal sugar that is being imported left, right and center into Kenya?
I think the cabinet secretaries who have brought out this information, one for and another one against, they need to move quickly, because if we are talking about mercury and copper and another compound, which is not fit for human consumption, I think it's very important they need to move very fast and reconcile their findings through the laboratories they tested, so that Kenyans can be informed whether the sugar that they are currently using is contaminated or not. Because these are cabinet secretaries who sit in the same cabinet. And for them to come with different positions, I think also for me as a leader, it has put a lot of question marks. Because Honorable Matiang'i, I don't think he will just wake up one day and claim that there is mercury and copper in sugar. So I think it's very important, and it should be done with the urgency that it deserves, that maybe even today or tomorrow, they should come up with a reconciled position, so that Kenyans should know their fate. Otherwise, the way it is, I think it will be left for Kenyans to decide on what to do on this product.
Honorable Nyamita, whose duty is it to regularize, these sugars that are being imported? And do you feel like this kind of imported sugar are literally driving the Kenyan farmers out of the market?
Thank you very much. Let me move away from poison sugar or otherwise. And let me talk about the issues that are affecting. Because there are other people suffering. Today, the poison sugar, Kenyans are at risk. But there is the industry in itself that is suffering. In my own view, I see a pattern. From September, the Minister of Finance issues a gazette notice allowing for free importation of sugar, giving a window between September and December. That window, unlike previously, the window does not have a cap on the quantities of sugar that are supposed to be imported. Because normally sugar importation should only be imported to an extent of satisfying the deficit of the local market. But in this particular one, last year in September, between September and December, the minister gives a blanket gazette notice without quantities and says this is supposed to be done by sugar millers. I am talking because I am a farmer. I've gone to school through sugarcane farming. I am a farmer. I represent farmers. After that, there is excess sugar that has actually been brought within that window and even without that window. Even as we speak today, there is a case in court. In fact, yesterday I just enlisted as an interested party in that case at the Supreme Court, whereby we have an importer who has brought even sugar post the window. Sugar came through Dubai and was loaded and it is already in the country. Now, the government issues this, we have excess sugar. The people who are importing this sugar are the private players. There's this gentleman who owns Sukari Industries, Israel, where we were finding sugar in Menengai, we were finding sugar in pan paper, which is supposed to be doing paper. It was being found today in Sukari Industries. This is a gentleman who were licensed to come into the sugar industries without regulations. Earlier this year, we, members of parliament from the sugar belt, met with the minister, and the minister said, I'm going to publish the regulations within a week. To date, nothing has happened. Then they came with the issue of privatization. They came, sought our opinion. They contacted us. They came to our sugar factories. We gave them our opinion. After that, everyone went quiet. And I want to tell you, I sit in the Budget and Appropriations Committee. The CS Rotich came, and I asked him, you guys are talking about the big four. Sugar is agricultural, which will help us in growing the GDP from the 8% to 15%, one of the big four. Sugar is under food, which is also in part of the Agenda 4, issues of food security. Because from where we come from, sugarcane is a big thing. And I asked him, this budget has nothing for sugar, for Nyanza and whatever. Whereas we are seeing money being put for waiver of coffee debts, money being put for Mira farmers. Why is it? Rotich, and it is on the Hansard in Parliament. Rotich said, these sugar factories, we really just need to sell them. So what we are seeing is actually something the government knows very well. So for me, I just want to submit that the president should take charge.
Yes.
And the people who have imported this sugar, sugar cannot come from the skies like rain. It comes through the border. And sugar is not airtime that is not visible. It will come, it will be cleared in such quantities. And today, the government must declare this sugar crisis a national disaster so that we mop out all the sugars, illegal, tax-free sugar, the ones that came in tax-exempt from the market. And we begin to think about the industry and the livelihoods of Kenyans that are coming from the sugarcane. So as the debate about which minister is right here is really immaterial, let's get to the bottom of the matter and begin to resolve the issues of the sugarcane farmer. Today, no one speaks of the farmer.
Yes,
they killed the Kenya Sugar Board.
Yes, I think you've made your point there. We're going to talk about who needs to protect the farmers here because they're also equally affected by the huge number of imported sugar into the country. Let me bring Honorable Shamala once again to this conversation. Now, Honorable Shamala, if you look at the figures that were today revealed by your colleague in the National Assembly, that is the Agriculture Committee Chair, Adan Haji Yusuf, this is what he said. About 14,800 metric tons of poisonous sugar are apparently imported, and indicated that about 4 million bags of sugar are in various stores across the country. I mean, don't you think the sheer amount of this illegal imported sugar into the country is worrying?
Yes, of course, it's very worrying. And the question I ask myself is what happened in Parliament today is that we now, a committee is going to look into all of this, is, that this information only came out now. Of course, it's very, very worrying. And all these issues are going to be addressed by this joint committee, which starts its work, I think, as of almost immediately. And the questions we will have to ask ourselves is, the reason tax exemption was given to imports of sugar was to meet a shortfall. How is it that such a huge amount of sugar actually entered into this country? Those are questions. These meetings are going to, the joint sittings are going to be open to the public as of, in the next couple of days. And we will ask these questions for and on behalf of the farmers of this country, for and on behalf of the sugar industry of this country. But to go back to another pertinent point you made is, how does one CS say one thing and the other CS say another thing? I think they could both be very right, and we have to be very clear, because we are not talking about sugar having come in one bulk. This is sugar that came in different, on different ships, on different consignments, etc. So it's very possible that the consignment that CS Mohammed checked, doesn't have mercury, and the one that was checked by the DCIO does have mercury. So let's be very, very, very clear on that. But in the coming days, yes, it's a question, it's a conversation that we're going to have, and we've got to thrash it out once and for all. I heard my brother, the Honorable Washiali, saying that there have been previous reports. What has happened to these reports? Why haven't the recommendations in these reports not been implemented? It is about high time we get the historical history of the historical framework of the sugar industry in this country, the players of the sugar industry of this country, who brought down these, the sugar industry, for example, Mumia's Sugar, and let's put things into context. And this time, let's sort it out once and for all.
Honorable Washiali, I think you've heard there the comment made by your colleague, Honorable Shamala, and perhaps correct me if I'm wrong, because I believe the reason as to why we're having this poisonous sugar is the sheer amount of illegal sugar, huge amount of illegal sugar out there that are basically unmanned, because nobody's checking them, nobody's checking on their quality. And perhaps can you clear the air for us on this once and for all? With regards to the shortages we've witnessed in this country, is it artificially created? And who are the ones who are, out there to benefit out of this kind of a shortage?
First of all, allow me to correct my sister Shamala that if CS Matiang'i picked on a sample of sugar which is in the country, and that sugar is dangerous to the users as the Kenyans, I think it would have made sense for our brother Eden to go and pick although the same sample so that he can test to prove. But by claiming that this was a different batch of sugar and this was different, and yet it's already in this country, I think that is not fair, and that's why I was asking them to go and reconcile. Two, it is very clear that nobody is protecting a sugarcane farmer. And like I had said earlier in the beginning, that this is an activity that has been evolving. At one point, the sugar importers were they were importing small quantities, but now, because of the changes in law, where Kenya Sugar Board, which was being represented by farmers, whose board farmers were represented, was disbanded to give way for the Sugar Directorate, which is purely civil servants. That's why you can now see that the sugar importers have now have a field day. They get the sugars the way they want, and they sell to whoever they want without necessarily trying to look at the interests of a farmer.
Yes,
Honorable
unfortunately, we're out of time. Let me give Honorable Nyamita the last word here. And Honorable Nyamita, I don't want to talk about who between the two CSs is right or wrong. Can you perhaps address this for us once and for all? Because it seems, or do you believe that there are sugar barons out there who are being protected at the expense of farmers? Who is out there to protect the farmers in the first place?
Thank you very much. The government is protecting sugar barons. And that is without a doubt. The government is out to kill the sugar industry. Again, that is not without a doubt. And I want to challenge the government that their families, their regions that are depending on this sugar. What I would want them to do, withdraw all the licenses for these other sugar industries that are not ready, that have not invested in cane, withdraw and let them close until they are ready. Publish the sugar regulations, which have been lying at the minister's desk for a very long time. And let's just simply stop sugar importations. Kenyans will not die if we don't have sugar. Let us stop sugar importation. Let us put a complete stop on sugar importation so that we can empower our sugar farmers.
Yes.
Let us reconstitute the
Yes, we're out
the
of time, Honorable Matiang'i. Many thanks for your input. We do hope that the relevant authorities are going to listen to all your input there. Many thanks, Honorable Matiang'i, for your input, as well as Honorable Jennifer Shamala, who is a nominated Member of Parliament, as well as Honorable Benjamin Washiali for your input. And that's all we had for you on the big story tonight. Many thanks for